Hey everyone, it's Chris Thompson and Mike Mandel here.
Hello.
And we wanted to record this YouTube video for you on tips for hypnotists doing hypnosis over Zoom. Kind of makes sense, right? Because these days, there's quite a lot of action going on.
There's a lot of hypnotists doing hypnosis over Zoom, Chris.
So we thought we would give you a video to explain some of the tips on making the most of your sessions, and we'll break it down into 3 areas. We've got some pre-session, we've got some setup during the actual session itself, and then some things that you can do during the session itself.
Right, because you want to have the best session with your client. You don't want to be struggling. You don't want things falling apart halfway through, and we're going to help you do that.
All right, so let's start with the pre-session. The first tip is to make sure that the client tests their own setup first. And really here, we're talking about the camera.
The tech stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Make sure that the camera's giving you a good picture. Make sure you're getting good sound. They should do some sort of test call if they've never used Zoom before with someone else to confirm that their setup is working.
Right, and you've got to avoid on the video, make sure there's no light behind the person. If they're backlit, you're not going to be able to calibrate them because they'll be in the shade.
That's it.
And it'll
They'll
look
be a
very,
silhouette.
and also make sure you're not getting any glare off your watch.
That's right. Yeah. So if you think of any studio setup like we are here right now, we have lights that are on the other side of the camera shining on us. And so you don't want your clients with a big window behind them or something like that.
Yeah.
They'll just look like a silhouette and you won't be able to see them very well at all.
And
So
you'll be
you wanna
giving them the
explain that.
big refund. So
That's
now
it.
listen, what about the sound?
Okay, so for sound, obviously not every one of your clients is going to have a microphone set up like this or anything like that. The good news is if they're using an iPad or even an iPhone, the microphone is excellent. It'll work great. But if they're using their laptop or crappy Chromebook or something like that with a built-in microphone, they might get
it might not be
crappy
good
sound.
enough. Yeah.
So earbuds, even the wired ones, doesn't have to be fancy Bluetooth. The best bang for your buck if they're completely stuck for something is just regular earbuds that have the microphone hanging on the wire and the little buds that go in your ear. They'll be perfect.
Or if you really want to drop the money, the best choice I've found is Apple AirPods Max.
AirPods are great.
They're just incredible.
Or just regular AirPods. If clients are using those, they'll be totally fine. So you don't have to be wireless on the sound, but you can be. It's not necessary. Okay, let's go to the session setup. We have a couple of things we want to talk about the session setup itself. So,
right, we've really got to make sure that the person, and one of the key things is making sure right away they're not going to be disturbed. So that means that not only are they meeting you promptly on time, maybe a couple of minutes before your session, but you want to make sure that their phone isn't going to ring. They don't have their iPhone or whatever in front of them and forget to turn it off or put it on silent, or their family walks in, or I've worked with a client, had a dog come in and start barking in the middle of it. You really need to minimize distractions and disturbances in advance.
You can obviously deal with disturbances just as you would in a live session, but do your best to have the client set it up in advance to avoid them. And set your computer to do not disturb, right? There's a few other things like suggest that you have a glass of water with you and they also have a glass of water in case they need a sip of water, because people will tend to get thirsty. Take a bathroom break. Suggest right before you actually dive into the hypnosis work. I was going to say to you... I was going to call it something else, but I won't because this is YouTube.
Okay.
Give them
We'll obviously be debriefing that when we're not on camera. So yeah, give them an opportunity to use the restroom if they need to. And they should know that in advance anyway, because again, that would be a distraction. Watch out for your framing. Make sure that you can see their hands and their torso. You don't want to be just zoomed in on their face, because although you'll get great calibration from looking at their facial expressions and so on, you want to see their hands. You want to see if they're cataleptic, if their hands have used them for ideomotor signals. You want to see their breathing from their torso.
In fact, that's why we decided to do this video in this format, our podcast setup style, because well, usually we stand up for our YouTube videos.
We do.
But this is what you're looking for. I'm looking at the monitor here just to confirm. But
so am I.
You want to have a good view of the client's torso and hands, like Mike just said. And you want to have that framing set up nicely. So even if they move around a little bit, you'll still be able to see them clearly.
And you said full screen on Zoom when we talked about this. That's really important as well.
Yeah, use your Zoom settings. Don't have you in one window and them in another. Put full screen on the client. They'll see you full screen or whatever. They'll have their eyes closed probably for a lot of the hypnosis work, but you want to see them full screen to get maximum calibration.
And notice we're saying Zoom, not Skype.
Skype.
Now,
used to be, some people still use Skype, I suppose. And if this video lasts for 10 years, there'll be some other software.
Yeah, and they're the same people who start fires with a flint and steel. Now, have your notes for the session ideas. Like, make sure you have a way of taking notes right in front of you as well.
Yeah. In fact, you want to use paper. We really recommend that even though Zoom, you can be on your computer, the last thing you want is the sound of
pounding in the poundery, like Jack the Pounder.
You pounding on your keyboard, taking notes and disturbing the client. You obviously can't mute yourself as the hypnotist. But what you can do, here's a pen, is just keep a piece of paper with you, and that way you can write stuff down.
But again, you don't want to be scrunching paper in front of your microphone. Just use some common sense here. And when you get to the actual session, one of the things that we really think is important is we do not do regression work online where somebody is abreacting, discharging negative emotions purely because we are not in the same room with them. And people will sometimes say, well, what do you say? Sometimes people just abreact and you can't stop it. We know, we recognize that. We are hypnotists and hypnosis trainers, but we don't trigger abreaction deliberately, and we're not going into situations working with deep past trauma on Zoom because it could abreact them, which isn't dangerous. But if someone's in Portugal and I'm in Toronto helping them, and all of a sudden the internet goes down for 4 hours and they're in the middle of abreacting, that could be very stressful for both of us.
Yeah. So there is a lot left to do. And one thing, just while we were on that point of paper, I want to make a clear point that you can come into a session, because we'll talk about the other things you can do if you're not doing abreaction and regression. You can have a bunch of ideas ready for the session. That doesn't mean you're making a scripted plan and a detailed step-by-step thing, but you can have ideas like, oh, I think I might want to run the phobia cure or whatever it is, or some anti-anxiety tool. You can write them down on a piece of paper and just keep them near your monitor.
Right, they're going to be accessible just as a memory jog of different tools that you use. And I think this might apply. Mindscaping might be great here, or an anchor collapse or anything like that. Now, if we're not doing abreaction, we're not putting people through deep emotional. What's left, Chris?
Well, there's so much you can do, right? So pretty much any NLP style intervention you can do inside of a trance. You can do direct hypnosis, direct hypnotic suggestion, what we call DSIH, direct suggestion in hypnosis.
Right. You can be working with any kind of generative
guided
change,
imagery,
which is not improving. I'm not getting rid of a problem, but improving something that's already good. So working with athletes or somebody who wants to make better presentations. I've worked with this over Zoom. It's a great opportunity to help people develop stronger skill sets.
In fact, I would say it's as simple as this. Doing a Zoom session or any online video tool session, the only difference is you're going to have less ability to calibrate just due to the camera, and you're going to have no ability to physically reach out and touch a wrist or a shoulder or anything like that. Otherwise, the principles are exactly the same.
And a lot of the time, Chris, as you know, I would work with NLP. I'd teach them tapping regimens, work with hypnosis, and also work with things like empowering questions, teaching them how to have better lives through implementing some of these tools. So now we get to what kind of induction are you going to use over Zoom?
Well, you can pretty much use any induction you want, but like we were just saying, you can't reach out and grab a hold of their wrist or do kinesthetic ambiguity or the little shelf or some of the other inductions that we've traditionally taught that you would be required to be physically present with the client for.
Oh no, then what will we do, Chris?
So we did an interesting thing here. Based on the classical principles of hypnosis, we recorded an entire bonus module for the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy called Bonus Online Inductions Module. But we start with a really great video that teaches the principles of hypnosis, and then we apply it to online work, and we teach you several inductions that you can do directly over Zoom. The Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, there's a link in the description below this video, and you can totally start with a free trial. So that's the best place to go.
And when we say free, we actually mean free.
Yeah, it does turn into a membership beyond the free trial period.
If you
decide that you want to cancel during currently it's a 14-day free trial, you can just email support and cancel it, and that's totally fine. But check it out. If you're interested in learning more, the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy is the place to go. So that's it for this video.
Right.
We'll see you in the members area. If you're one of our students, we look forward to it. And while you're here, let's click that subscribe button and then ring the bell, which shows up so that you'll always be notified of our YouTube videos.
Thanks again.
And
good night.